Hello everyone, I'm Milsty586, and I am graciously excited to present a theory that was heavily collaborated on, and I'm actually not alone this time. So with me, I actually have featuring...
Hey folks, it's TheArkaneRealm, I'm happy to be here.
And if you guys don't know his channel, it's actually really freaking awesome, even if it is newish. No offense, Arcane. And like, okay, so this theory took a really long, awesome time to put together. For us, this kind of felt like we were working on a college essay, so it was great. So you may want to grab a snack, possibly some notes, and let's begin.
This place is the end of all things, and the beginning, a line uttered by the spirit of Empress Jessamine Caldwin in the first Dishonored, a sentence that is both cryptic and definitive. However, it may also be the key to the story of Dishonored going forward. With Death of the Outsider looming before us, we decided it would be a good idea to collaborate on a theory that could have massive implications for the world of Dishonored.
There are many fascinating pieces of information surrounding the background of the mythical figure that we know as the Outsider, but one that really catches our attention is a certain tidbit related to the Void itself, and how there were other deities that existed before the Outsider. These deities, which actually fulfilled much of the same role that our Outsider currently serves in Dishonored's universe, is the role of that being the representational figurehead of the Void.
The concept of our theory is simply this. What if the Outsider, the very same one that we've come to know and love, is actually the last of the Void's deities?
And perhaps Dowd's plan to slake the chaos, something which he blames the Outsider for, was never inherently the Outsider's fault, and killing him would actually do more harm than good. That the Outsider's possible death would instead bring about the end of the Empire of the Isles.
And that chaos, the very same that Dowd so hopes to put to rest, was really the Void, ever inching closer through wounds that are seeping into their world from a fraying interdimensional veil that separates the two, fulfilling the Void's long-whispered promise.
Someday this place will devour all the lights in the sky.
These are frightening questions for Dishonored fans, but they are important questions to ask nonetheless. So, what is the Void exactly?
The Void is not exactly a place, and it's much older and stranger than you could ever know. It watches you from within.
It's not exactly a place.
The Void is something that exists on another dimension, and whether this dimension is a direct parallel or that of another plane of existence is something that's not exactly clear to us. And this quote that is given by the Outsider gives meat to something that was always suspected on some level.
That the Void has some form of awareness. Not a new idea for certain, and it is with this implication of awareness that we are able to look at the Void with a sort of percipience for the ability to at least sense certain things.
And we do know that in the past, and even the present, that the Void has been described with words such as hungers and devours, which is a bit peculiar when speaking about something that was previously believed to be nothing more than a non-sentient place of existence. The Void hungers for representative. The Void will devour all lights in the sky. It's not something that you would use to describe just a place. It's something you would use to describe something with animate energy. And it's actually this very same energy which the Void is essentially composed of.
However, this awareness is not something that is devious or cunning, but further similar to that of a hungry entity, only just now discovering what it has found to crave and figuring out how to get that source from point A, the material world, to point B, the Void which hungers. Killing the Outsider could create a wound in both the Void and the mortal world, seeing as he has a foothold on both. The Void would flow like a tidal wave into the mortal realm, consuming everything in its path. However, it is unable to do so in the present, as the two realities are separated by a barrier that prevents one dimension from crossing into the other.
But there are wounds in the mortal realm that have been created by those who have tampered with Void energies. Delilah crossing from the Void into the real world, creating a vacuum in time and space within the manor of Aramis Stilton, is merely one example of such a tear.
Not to mention the many cults scattered throughout the Isles, drawing their abilities from the very same place.
The Outsiders like that of a gatekeeper, a caretaker in a sense, maintaining a needed balance while he's bound to the void, and we don't mean that figuratively. The outsider was forced to undergo a ritual that was a way to satiate the void's hunger for a representative, allowing it to exert its influence while also allowing the people of the mortal realm to commune with the void itself.
Now, the void has, in the past, gone without a representative for long periods of time. However, the previous deities were all either extinguished by natural disasters or were reabsorbed into the void itself.
In other words, the deities were created naturally by the void, while the current outsider was created under unusual and unique circumstances.
The outsider, as a result, takes on a larger degree of importance than the picture that mortals of the realm often perceive him to be.
That being the role of a trickster-like god. In the month of darkness, seasons destroyed, a ritual killing bound his spirit to the void.
The ritual sacrifice that bound the young boy's spirit to the void and created the outsider was the start of the unraveling of the natural connection between worlds.
The void and its effects on reality rippled outwards from this event, and the void hasn't exactly been known to be a beneficial force in the modern industrial era that the Empire is currently in.
The outsider's connection to the void is an unnatural one, as he was merely flesh before his creation, while the others that came before him were birthed naturally by the void. Billy's eyepiece, known as the Eye of the Dead God, could provide evidence that the previous deities were not humanoid like the outsider, but were comprised of different material than a human figure. Whereas the passing of the old gods was purely natural, the outsider's passing would be brought about by external forces in the form of Billy Lurk and the very same sacrificial blade used on the outsider over 4,000 years ago.
While the outsider is not a pure void-created deity, this could be causing minor perforated rifts instead of being a complete seal between the two worlds, as his demise might create one of the largest rifts thus far.
Due to his death at the hands of an outside influence. However, in the absence of an outsider, who would stop the spread of the void into the earthly plane?
Plot twist! The outsider would be the one to stop it.
We postulate that not only will he survive death of the outsider, but that in Billy's attempt to neutralize him, he will instead return to his mortal form and still maintain a strong connection to the void.
As he was once godlike in power, he himself would become a living, breathing artifact from the void, effectively allowing him abilities and access to void magic, much as how Billy uses void artifacts to gain her powers.
The outsider himself, in essence, would become an endless well of void energy, and only he would have the ability to repair the very fabric of reality.
Now, we don't yet know how Billy would eliminate the outsider using non-lethal means, but we think that the outsider's spirit would return to his body, wherever it may be buried, and his flesh and bone would regenerate to the same point it was at before he was sacrificed.
Or the cult that took his life also somehow managed to preserve his mortal body as an object of worship and power, possibly within a time capsule of the void's energy, enabling his body to survive the natural elements of the world, such as aging and decay. Such as to be similar to the void bubble that Aramis Stilton and his house is currently enveloped in.
Sometimes, pieces of us linger long after we're gone.
However, he would still maintain a strong connection to the void, as he once wielded immeasurable power. The energies of the void would flow through his earthly veins, and he would be able to freely use his powers without the use of mana potions, similar to how Billy uses her abilities by absorbing power from the artifacts in her possession, and would share that of the cooldown mechanic.
This would allow the outsider to play similarly to previous characters and reflect the core ideals to the Dishonored gameplay traditions, i.e. playing as a supernatural assassin.
But what would the outsider's motivation be, though, to save the world from Armageddon? One may suspect that a once godlike deity returning to a mortal affair might not want anything to do with the world in question, but consider the outsider's previous life.
The one that he was born into 4,000 years ago was less than favorable. He was an outcast. He was a part of something that was pretty much nothing.
It has been made obvious through his selections, which he has given his mark, have too often been those whom are victimized by society, and he has an obvious bias against those in power, which reflects his own past onto those he's bestowed his mark.
And after existing for 4,000 years beyond his time, he might see this, possibly through cynical views at first, as a second chance, as a way to live the life that he might have unknowingly always wanted.
And just as well that he was the Void's gatekeeper, and that he may feel a sense of obligation to restore an off-kiltered balance between the two veils.
As he himself was a part of both, born within the mortal one, found the void, and inevitably returned to that very same world. And as to humorously note, we might get to see him struggle with basic human needs throughout the storyline, simply to lighten the overtone that may be presented in Dishonored 3.
As for his ability, the Outsider, well, he may literally be the only one capable of achieving such a feat, as the Void has been known to corrupt or subdue those who come into direct contact with Void energies, Stilton for example. However, the Outsider, having the advantage of being a part of the Void for over 4,000 years, may enable him to not only get close to the energies unaffected, but also seal or heal the rifts as well.
And not only would being part of the Void for this long give him this advantage, but also some sort of foreknowledge of where they might be. Mostly of that where his very own shrines are located. The Outsider may also possess the capability of hearing secrets via the Void. This is only speculation, of course, but this could be, in retrospect, as a possible counterpart to Corvo's heart, and Billy's ability to hear the secrets of that rats carry, as something that is also heavily part of the Dishonored trope. As an afterthought, we may get to learn the Outsider's mortal name in the upcoming Dishonored Death of the Outsider DLC, as a way to return some of his humanity, perhaps in an effort to persuade Billy Lurk to actually spare him.
As to personally note, we would like to mention that the Outsider is the only character we haven't played thus far in all the games. He is not directly involved in the political downfall of the Dunwall assassinations.
Something which Harvey Smith has confirmed himself many times, that the arc of the assassinations are indeed coming to an end, but not necessarily Dishonored itself that is coming to an end. And the Outsider, he does have a large built-in fanbase.
He would be an easier character to become emotionally attached to, as he already has existing connections within the fandom, rather than a brand new random character as the main protagonist for Dishonored 3.
This could also be a marketing play for gaining hype around Death of the Outsider for reasons for more than what lies on the surface, and for the character of the Outsider overall.
There are going to be many arguments as to why this idea we are presenting will not be the case.
That idea being that the Outsider will be the main character if there is indeed a Dishonored 3.
We simply wanted to voice our ideas and thoughts on the subject of a potential Dishonored 3 and see what you would think. Thanks for watching, everyone. I know this video is a bit different, but I had a blast working on this with New Life 5586, and hopefully we'll be collaborating on another project at some point in the future. Be sure to leave some feedback in the comments down below and let us know what you think of this Dishonored theory. And remember that the Outsider walks among us.
Aw, do you mean me? I jest, of course, but I remember to take our theories with a grain of salt, as we could 100% be wrong on all accounts, and nothing we say should be taken as fact. This has been New Life 5586 of The King Studios, and as well,
The Arcane Realm.
and we're signing out, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!